In this video seminar, we're going to take a look at creating a tray ceiling, placing a crown molding in the tray, and then embedding a LED strip light, and then finally looking at how to produce the CAD detail. When I begin the project, I'm going to start with a basic flat ceiling. Then I'm going to use a polyline solid, and I'll talk about the differences between using a polyline solid and a soffit to create the perimeter, and then I'm going to inset the crown molding. And then we'll go ahead and change the materials in the inner portion of the ceiling, and then we'll place the LED strip light behind the crown molding. Now here's a view of the completed plan that we'll end up with. You can see how I've created the strip light. That light is using an emissive property, and if you kind of look into the bathroom, I've used the same thing to create an LED strip through the glass on the countertop. Let's go into the program and begin with our basic flat ceiling and look at the steps involved. I've opened up the plan with a flat ceiling. In the master bedroom, there's really two approaches to creating the tray ceiling. Since it's not sloped for a technical true tray ceiling, I could use a soffit and place a soffit around each one of the walls. Since the room is not rectangular in shape, that's going to take quite a few more steps. I'm going to show you the process that I would use since the room is not rectangular. While the master bedroom is selected, I'm going to come down in my lower edit menu. I'm going to choose a tool to make room polyline. This will create a shape for a CAD object that is precisely the outline of the room. Again, while that is selected, I'm going to convert that into a solid itself, and then we'll go ahead and set the thickness of this to be 6 inches. You can see a few settings in here for absolute or from floor. Since this is a one-story house, both of those values would be the same. Then I'm going to set the elevation at the top to be exactly at the top of the ceiling, which turns out to be 109 1/8 in my case. The next step is to create a hole inside of this solid. There's two ways to do it. One, while the solid is selected, you'll find a hole tool down in your edit menu. You can also draw a polyline solid, and when you have two solids that exist over one another, you can mark one as a hole. So I'm drawing this out as a solid. I'm going to press the tab key so I can enter in precise coordinates. In Chief Architect Premiere, you can simply press the tab key while you're doing that. I'm going to enter in 166 by 133.5. That's in a negative value since I'm dragging it out in this direction. You can see the polyline solid we just drew on the floor over in the 3D view. The next thing I'm going to do is mark that this polyline solid, again, when you have two polyline solids that overlap, you can mark one of them as a hole. You'll find that setting here in the general panel, and I'll simply mark that as a hole. You'll notice that it will then cut that section out of the ceiling, and while the hole is still selected, I'm going to use the center tool in my lower edit menu to center it both on the windows in this direction, and I'll also center it based on a line that I've temporarily drawn in this direction to have it exactly centered. I now want to place a molding that is inset into the hole. The easiest way to do that is to copy and paste that hole in place and convert that to a molding polyline. I'll highlight the hole. Down in the lower edit menu, I'm going to copy and paste in place. When I do this, notice in the 3D view it fills in the hole. We've created a copy of this. This is not a hole in this case. And I'm going to convert this using the convert tool to a plain polyline. And then we'll go ahead and use the convert polyline tool once more. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and make it a molding polyline. For the height of the molding, I'm going to go ahead and put that in at 103 1/8. And then on the molding itself, let's browse out into the library. Let's find a profile in our core catalog. And I'm going to look underneath the casings folder, and I'm just going to use CA02, this profile. And we'll set the height for the profile to be 4 inches in the height, and then on the width, I'm going to set that to 3.5 inches. And now you can see in the 3D view that where that crown molding is inset, and the next step is to make a copy of this molding, and then we'll set this up for our LED strip light. The LED strip, I'm actually going to just use a crown molding profile to make this happen. Notice in my 2D view I still have that molding for the crown selected. I'm going to use the copy and place option down here in the lower edit menu. And I'm going to go ahead and double click to open up this molding. And just to make this easy, let's go ahead and lower this down to 88 inches so you can see what I'm going to do. And on the molding itself, let's choose just a simple profile that we can apply on here. And I should find that in a base molding. I'm just looking for a simple rectangular profile. We'll set the height of this to be 2 inches in height. And then I'm going to set the width of it to be 1 inch. Now you'll notice in my 3D view I've lowered this down so it'll be easy for you to see what I'm going to do. Let's maximize our 3D view and open up the library. Now I've browsed to a blue color. I'm going to apply that blue color onto the molding profile. This can be any color, it can be generic or manufacturer. When I select this color using the spray can and I apply it onto the molding, what's going to make this pop and make it look like an LED strip, I'm going to go up into my menu and there's a tool called Adjust Material Definition. I'm going to use this tool, come down and click on that blue color. And in this case I'm going to come over and there is a setting underneath the general material for emissivity. I'm going to go ahead and change that to something like 250. I might even adjust it to be 500 since I want it to be very bright. And let's go ahead and choose OK, and you'll be able to see that now glow and pop when it comes on. Now all I need to do is move that up into place. Let's highlight the molding. Let's go ahead and set the floor to top. I'm going to raise that up to be 106.5, and that will embed that behind the other crown molding. I'm going to use a material eyedropper. It'll make a few changes. One, I'm going to use the material off of the ceiling, and I'm going to apply that onto the soffit. And then I'm going to also use the material eyedropper, grab the casing material, and I'm going to apply that just below the LED strip light, difficult to see in the video. And then finally I'm going to use material eyedropper, and I'm going to grab the material off of the floor and I'm going to apply that onto the inset so now you can actually see the detail of what we have in our ceiling. As I rotate around, you can see the effect of that LED. You can also see the LED strip that I've applied on the glass countertop inside of the bathroom using the same type of technique. Now the electrical in the plan with a soffit will automatically reset and lower it. I've used a solid in this case. In the electrical I have 2 can lights and some speakers, and they're actually embedded. I need to turn those layers on in my plan view and then lower them the 6 inches for that solid. Let's return back to the floor plan view. I'm going to switch my layer set into the electrical set. We'll grab those components. In this case I'm going to grab the recessed light, the speakers, slide our view up a little bit, grab this speaker. Those are the main things in the ceiling, and I'm going to use a tool down here in the bottom that is a transform replicate. Click on that, and in this case I'm going to choose move and a -6 inches, which was the thickness of that polyline solid for the soffit. And then when we go back into the 3D view you'll see that those have adjusted. Again, an advantage to using the soffit tool, those will automatically lower down for you, but since I used a solid I needed to actually use that to offset it from the ceiling the same amount of that polyline solid at 6 inches. The final portion of the video is to show you how to create the detail for the tray or the coffered ceiling with the LED strip light. Using my wall elevation view, I actually cropped in and created this detail that went on my layout sheet to show the detail for the installers. And if I open up the layout sheet, you can see that the bottom of the layout sheet, I've called it M1, the crown molding detail. I created this from both the office and the master bedroom, since they both have the same type of tray or coffered ceiling inside of those. Let's take a look at the process I used to create that detail. In the plan view, I've created a backclip cross-section camera as opposed to a wall elevation, since I want to be able to cut through several walls simultaneously. I'm going to create a backclip cross-section right through this area of the master bedroom. When the view opens up, I'm actually going to turn off the LED strip light. I can click on that. This will highlight in the layer display options. You can also get to this through the object layer display, and you can easily turn that layer on and off by choosing the display option and removing the check mark. This will clean up the display a little bit. When you've got the view that you're after, a lot of times to create that CAD detail, I'll do what's called a CAD detail from view. This will create a view of this and do a screen capture, then I can go in and remove the different lines. Let's use this tool. The CAD detail from view is actually a series of lines, and as I zoom out you can see the entire screen. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through and clip off all of the extra lines that I don't want to use. Let's zoom into the section that we're interested in, and what I'm going to do is draw a line in here, and this will act as a cropping line in this area. Let's go ahead and choose the line while it's highlighted, and then you'll find a option down here in your menu that is a trim option. That will allow me to now trim all those extra lines. And from over here in this area, I'm just going to draw a marquee around all of the different lines that I don't want, and then I'll just delete those lines in this case. And then we'll just delete the remainder of the lines by drawing a marquee and cleaning that up. After a little bit of busy work, I've removed all of the extra lines, and I'm going to add some detail in here. One of the things I like to do is use a cross box that will block out the area for that soffit. And I'll just come in here and draw that in using a cross box. I might also just use a simple rectangular box to generate the ceiling platform. And what I did on my particular view is I put a small fill style in that area, and I just used a solid color and chose a simple gray that would then stand out as that platform finished ceiling that would come through, and then I can extend it over to where that break line would be. And what I might actually do is delete the line that we used for the cropping, and if you do need to find a break line, you'll find those in the library. If I open up the library, I can actually search for a break line. You can then come over, place these into place, and then you can simply resize these break lines to be the right size for the particular object you need. And I'll just pull that down pretty small, and then we'll just place that into place. Next, using the text tool with leader, I can come in here and then I can put the call out for the information that I want. In this case, I'll put in LED strip light, and then if I were to open up the completed detail, if we toggle over, take a look at it, you can see that I've actually added some additional fill, used the dimension tool, and provided the detail that I can now send that out to the layout sheet. Well, that completes the video seminar on creating a coffered or tray ceiling with an LED inset. When we began the ceiling, I used a polyline solid. I placed a hole in it. I found the process a little bit faster than using soffits. I then used a crown molding, and I used a copy and paste in place to create the molding from the hole, and then also a copy and paste in place with the LED strip light that was assigned to a molding. And the change that I made to that LED strip light was changing the emissive properties and applying a 500 lumen or something that's very bright for the lumens on the emissivity. Finally, from a elevation detail, I did a view to CAD, and then I cropped in on the detail. You can see in the lower left hand section of the screen, create that for the construction drawings.